have Captain Akshay Chopra, an aviation expert, joining us live on this broadcast. A very good afternoon to you, Captain. What does this issue mean and how serious is it?
First of all, thank you for having me this afternoon. And though the issue which happened was quite serious, but the actions taken are very well should be actually very well appreciated because this was needed and this has never happened in the aviation history before, at least at this particular scale. Grounding of more than 6,000 aircrafts is the biggest fleet recall in the history of Airbus. However, though people will be worried and concerned, the flights are getting delayed and cancelled because more than 6,000 aircrafts are grounded. However, this was very much necessary and it's a very good action, especially after the Boeing incident which happened. All the airlines are actually on their toes and they're not taking any particular issue lightly. Now, let me give you a brief of exactly why this particular thing happened was. So earlier, the solar radiations, or what we also call as solar flares, they used to affect only the GPS systems of the satellites, the people traveling in space and all. But now it has been experienced by a lot of airlines, which we just saw in the JetBlue airlines. And why this happens was because most of the modern aircraft today are flying at a very high height of 30,000 to 40,000 feet. And that particular height, the atmosphere shielding is quite less. So when such a strong electromagnetic pulse of solar radiation comes in, it can affect most of the aircraft, especially the modern aircraft, which are using the fly-by-wire system. So all the electronic systems are vulnerable. Your HF communication to the ATC can be jammed. Your GPS systems can be corrupted. And in this particular case, on the JetBlue case, what happens? So there's a computer called ELAC. So now the earlier aircrafts used to be, when if I'm a pilot and I'm using my stick to pull the aircraft up and down or left and right, the earlier aircraft used to have the mechanical system. But now in the fly-by-wire system, when I give such a command to the aircraft control, it doesn't directly go to the system. It goes to a computer called ELAC, which is the aileron and elevator control computer. And then it is converted to electromagnetic signals, and then the aircraft obeys the signal. So in case there's a problem with this particular computer, the stability of the aircraft can be compromised in a big way, which we saw in the case of JetBlue, which saw a massive drop in the height without any particular reasons known. And with this thing, when it came to Airbus and the European safety authorities, they immediately issued a bulletin and they grounded all the aircrafts. However, they already said one thing very clearly, that most of the aircrafts will be requiring a minor software update. They'll be ready in maybe a day or so. But there may be few aircraft which may require a hardware update, which may take a couple of weeks or even months.
Okay, and do you think that reverting back to the older version of the software could probably fix the issue? And why is it that only a portion of the fleet has been updated with this particular software? Are they, trying and testing out this particular software? Because 6,000 flights, Captain, that's not a joke, right?
Yeah. So different aircrafts, depending on what year they have been inducted, they're using different softwares and hardwares. Now, when they found out, okay, this particular fleet of aircraft, let's say JetBlue is using an X year of software, and because of that, this has happened. They are trying to now upgrade all the aircraft using that type of a software. And I'm sure eventually, if they find that such an incident happens in any other aircraft, maybe with the modern, and this is actually happening more with the modern softwares being used. That's why there's another news which has come in recently that, after this incident, the airlines have to be very careful world over because the new systems which are being designed should be now safeguarding against these solar flares, which were not taken into account earlier.
That's right. And is this problem also linked to hardware susceptibility as well? And you spoke about, the JetBlue incident, but that's the only case that we know about. What are the potential risks that it has, especially given the situation of this particular software?
Okay, so because the risk has been identified, so I'm sure that once the software is corrected and updated, the problem more or less will be solved. However, because of the modernization of the aircrafts and use of huge amount of electronic systems, the aircrafts are very now extremely vulnerable, especially because the aircrafts with powerful engines are flying at greater heights. That's why once you update the systems, you have to be sure that the modern aircrafts coming in will have such softwares and such hardwares which are shielded against these solar flares, which earlier used to be only incorporated in satellites and the space travelers used to go in the space. So their aircrafts used to be shielded, but now these aircrafts have to be shielded against them.
Also, Captain, now they have identified the problem and the solution is to revert back to the older software version. How challenging is this process and how long do you think it would take?
So as I said, and even the authorities have clearly stated that it's not a very long process. The software will be updated more or less in a day or two. Because the number of aircrafts are very large, it may take a bit more time, but they have been operated by different airlines around the world, and they've all been given very strong directives to not fly the aircraft at all till the time the softwares are updated and informed. Once it's done, the aircraft are ready to fly. But there are certain systems they are identifying in couple of older aircrafts where an hardware update may be needed. That type of a aircraft may be grounded for a longer period of time, but they are very few in number.